but yeah, feel free to get involved. I'll kick things off just so that we're not taking up too much of your time. So we are hoping to run these type of events semi-regularly. This is a milestone for us at Independent Executives, getting ourselves out there. We've introduced ourselves to our EOS community, and this is our opportunity. That we're grateful that you've joined us, our opportunity to introduce ourselves to you and to share some insights and some things that we're seeing, and perhaps give you some behind the scenes, behind the curtain look at why we came about. And I'm going to share my screen. If we get into a discussion and it makes sense to unshare, then I can. Hopefully, those that have Zoom, comfortable with Zoom, have got you set up in a way that you can see each other and the session. I'll get things moving. So, independent executives. Today we're calling it Unlock Your Business. We want to talk about how getting that integrator function right in the business can allow you to do that. And our niche, we use EOS ourselves. Our niche is filling the integrator talent gap, which we'll talk about a little bit more as we go. The rocket fuel book, which is being protected here by the elephant in the room and Elmo in the stack of the Traction Library. Rocket fuel book has provided a lot of inspiration for what we are doing here, and that getting that rocket fuel right is something that is really difficult. One of my favorite quotes from rocket fuel is that visionaries have groundbreaking ideas and integrators bring those ideas into a reality. So hopefully we can help you get some insight in how we can do that today. So I'm Dan. Zoom has my name there, which kind of cuts out some of that mystery. I'm Dan Williams. I'm one of the co-founders of Independent Executives, for those that don't know me. And we've got Sammy. Say hi, Sammy.
Hey.
And Murray, who's on mute. Say hi, Murray, if you can get off mute quickly.
Hello.
Hello, thank you. The three of us started executives, and hopefully there's some familiarity because we've put invites out to you and through our networks. So we are the team that founded Independent Executives. I'm in the role of visionary. So for those of you that are in the visionary seat in your businesses, we'll have some things in common. Hopefully I can lend some experience into the things the mischief I've done to myself over the years as the visionary. And all of us have experience in EOS, which I'll talk to when we get to that. And our core values are candid, on purpose, brave, humbly confident, and abundance-minded. So our why, our purpose on our VTO is giving people more time to do what they love. And that's why we're starting with you. Majority of people here are in that visionary seat in the accountability chart. And so we're focusing on giving you more time to do what you love, and then by extension, everyone in your leadership team and hopefully throughout the business. The idea for Independent Executives came from our VTO in our 3-year picture in 2018. So we're on track, just creeping into 2022. The idea has grown as we've seen a lot of Australian businesses, as EOS becomes more popular throughout Australia, struggle to find that rocket fuel, that ideal combination between visionary and integrator. And a lot of that is the substance for what we're going to talk about today. Our 3 uniques, so you'll see some familiarity with the EOS process here because we follow it pretty tightly. Our 3 uniques are that we are built specifically for companies running on EOS. We're not trying to venture outside of that. We want to address that integrated talent gap in companies that are running on EOS. So we're specifically built with that purpose. And we're built by EOS experts. So Sammy has extensive experience in companies running on EOS as an integrator, and now works with me in my EOS implementation practice as the integrator. Murray is a professional EOS implementer, working out of Geelong down here, but all across Australia. And I'm a certified EOS implementer as well. And prior to that, had worked within a company running on EOS as well, as in fact one of the first companies in Australia to run on EOS. So there's a lot of EOS pedigree there. So we think that that qualifies us to be experts in the scheme of things. We have a curated talent pool. So the integrators that we are bringing in to our team to service companies that work with independent executives are handpicked, and they are all experienced in EOS. We're not expecting them to learn on the job. We've got a combination of people who have been an integrator in companies running on EOS, and some that are EOS implementers themselves as well. So the problem that we see is ultimately a lack of traction, and I'm appreciative of those who have completed our Fast 50. If you haven't completed the Fast 50 assessment, we'd love for you to do it. It's not 50 questions. Someone messaged me the other day and said, is it really 50 questions? It's not. It's a score out of 50. So please don't be intimidated by the name. And what it does is it gives us a sense of where you're at in your EOS journey and how you're going, maintaining traction. We've taken the recent data that we have, and these are the top responses that we see. So maybe there's some comfort here, or maybe you can give yourself a pat on the back if these aren't a challenge for you. But I'll quickly skim through them. You can obviously read them on your screen, but we're averaging a 2.5 out of 5 for team members having at least quarterly one-on-ones or the quarterly conversation. With core processes being simple, accessible, documented, and up to date, 2.7, which didn't come as a massive surprise. It can be the least sexy of the 6 components and then sort of gets neglected. And communicating well and keeping the whole company up to date on progress every quarter was relatively low, and consistently completing 80% or more of your rocks each quarter. That wasn't a massive surprise. I do see ebbs and flows there as an EOS implementer, but based on your feedback, that's what we're seeing. There were some that were rating really high as well, like things like team health as a leadership team. So I congratulate you on that. And the average rating out of 50 so far is sitting at 31.5, which is higher than I expected, but it's great. It's good to see. So we wanted to deep dive into the problem. So if you want to ask any questions or share any experience as I go through this, if you want to be that vulnerable, that would be great. I'd love to hear from you. If not, it's going to be me talking to you about some of these problems. So the problem, lack of traction, can be really sort of in the context of why that happens in an EOS implementation. It can be distilled down into several areas, and one of them we're focusing on is that integrator seat. So quite often the integrator function is being shared effectively. So I met they're not here, I won't name them, but I met someone this week in an independent executives discovery call who was in the visionary and the integrator seat and was delegating a lot of the integrator functions throughout the business. Quite often when there is a person in the integrator seat, they're either delegating those functions out or they're splicing their time across multiple seats. Sometimes a company has lost their integrator. So they've had an integrator in the business and they've stepped out and they lose traction as a result. Or the integrator just needs help from someone who understands. Sometimes we see at the beginning of an EOS journey that we don't have an integrator yet, or the EOS journey is on hold until you find one. And I want to go into these a little bit closer and give you some experience shares that we're hearing from you and we've seen in implementation. We've seen across the EOS community throughout Australia and APAC as well. So when integrators are splicing their time, wearing multiple hats, quite often, this is, I don't want to be too general, but I see quite often that an integrator is also your head of finance or head of people and culture or in the operations seat as well. And so they need to choose quite often, which one am I going to focus on doing well? And if the business is in a pinch, unfortunately, that integrator function gets left and sort of gets put on pause. Especially if there's a busy time, we've got a major project happening, we've got a new initiative, or we're dealing with a pandemic. We're all experiencing that now. What can happen is that creates a capacity issue. And so the integrator function just gets sort of left to wither on the vine quite often, because ultimately something has to give. They've got to choose where their loyalties lie, where their focus goes. And so a lot of those functions, integrator functions, fall away as they splice their time. Unfortunately, and this is well and truly predates the concept of the Great Resignation, but the companies do lose integrators. You know, people go on and, you know, they pursue other passions. Perhaps maybe they've taken leave for personal reasons, could be positive things like maternity or paternity leave, or perhaps they're suffering some health issues, or they might have just gone on and found their ideal scene elsewhere. And so what happens in those cases, they become such an important part of keeping us all rowing in the same direction. And when that function goes, we can lose that glue. We often talk about the integrator being the glue in the middle that keeps everyone connected, that single point of friction between your major functions. When that goes, things can start to get a little bit wobbly. Some teams are super resilient and able to forge forward, sometimes because the integrator was really good at that. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they go into a bit of a holding pattern. And so I'm going to talk to you about how we can help with that. Sometimes as an integrator, it can be a little bit lonely. So I know that I've spoken with a lot of integrators that as their EOS implementer, they'll call me sometimes throughout the quarter just for a chat. They just want to talk things through with someone who understands them. And so that's not uncommon. And you know, when we are trying to be that person in the middle and the glue, it can sometimes be a little bit isolating because we're having to keep everyone accountable. We're providing LMA, leadership management and accountability, to the leadership team. And then you want to get buy-in from rolling out the tool. So sometimes you need to take on that role as that teacher, and it can be isolating. So we want to be able to address that. I'm going to talk about how we can help with that. Providing that ear of someone who understands. It's really common, and I've very rarely seen team members fight over who's going to be the integrator. It's not, the visionary seat's usually pretty popular. Like it sounds pretty cool. People think Steve Jobs and that they can wear jeans and a skivvy to work every day. But very rarely are they fighting over or queuing up to be the integrator. So I've done lots of focus days where there hasn't been an integrator, or the integrator is also the visionary, or we don't have one and it's a vacant seat. And when it is the visionary, it creates a bit of a trade-off as well. Are we focusing on the big ideas, the future state, or are we acting as the glue? And it's kind of difficult to do those things really well, in parallel. And if the role is empty, we're effectively missing the most important part in any business. And it's quite common that it's empty because people don't get it, they don't want it, or they don't have the capacity. Occasionally, from time to time, we'll go through the 90-minute meeting. Hopefully, most of you have experienced a 90-minute meeting with an EOS implementer. We'll go through that and people will say, I love it, it sounds great. When can we start? And then they say, oh, actually, can we start without an integrator? And they know out of the gates they've read Rocket Fuel, or they've gone through that process and self-selected that they don't have an integrator. We want that to no longer be a barrier. So there is a solution. I didn't mean to bring the drama too much. We've got pretty good clarity on some of the major issues and what leads to loss of traction. We do have a solution, and we've organized this into 3 stages, which I'll go through in more detail. And feel free to ask any questions as we go through this. I don't have the best voice for this sort of thing. I have kind of a consistent tone. So if you want to hear a different voice, maybe that can be a reason to ask a question. So Engage is acting like a drop-in integrator. So sort of dropping, I don't know if I'd jump out of a gyroplane while it was moving, but maybe dropping in, parachuting out of something a little safer, built for purpose, fit for purpose.
Very safe, come on.
That propeller, especially that back on there, I'd be worried about that. And then we have Elevate. And so Elevate is sort of moving out of that sort of more intense engagement, and I'll talk through that into more of a co-pilot. I've seen pictures of the people sitting in the back of that gyroplane. I will do that one day. I'm just under the weight and just under the height restrictions. And then empower. And so empower is when we're helping an integrator in that seat and in keeping them on track. So I'll talk through those in a little bit more detail. But at a glance, this is what it looks like, comparing those 3 stages. Engage is where it begins. So we're looking at that as a 3-month, a minimum of a 3-month term, 3-month commitment for engage. We do realize, and we talk about this often, that some companies are better equipped and will move through that quickly. That's okay. We want to take a quarter to make sure that we're doing things right by you. We're acting in the best interests of the team and the company. So engage is where it begins, and that's a more of an intensive. That's involvement in quarterlies and level 10s and company updates, as you can see on the screen. And I'll go through them in more detail. But this is the bird's eye view of what the different stages look like. Hopefully that's clear. Feel free to ask any questions. A little more detail. Obviously, you can read what's on the screen, so I won't insult your intelligence, but I'll point out some of the key points here. So one of the major reasons why we would look at a 3-month engagement initially is we need to immerse ourselves in your business and to have experienced the quarterly planning as the integrator. That's a critical function, as you'd be aware, in the quarterly planning exercise. So we want to be able to drop in and experience that and act as the integrator, or if you have an integrator, to support that integrator through that process. That allows us to be a part of the ROC setting, to see the team working together in that dynamic, and also to help you get the best out of the activities that follow on from that quarterly planning. We'll attend level 10 meetings. The engage level, it'll be a weekly attendance at those to help you make sure that you're doing them well. Level 10 meetings, we rate them for a reason. We want them to be your best meeting. We want them to be a 10 out of 10. Congratulations to those that are doing it well. David mentioned to me last week that they were pretty happy with how their level 10s are going. Keep up that good work. I look forward to attending one very soon. So I'll rate you in that as well. We'll attend those. In the company updates, that can be a critical element. And actually, in fact, based on the Fast 50 results that we are getting, this is an area where you can get some quick wins. Good quality, consistent company updates, state of the company, helping you to host those and deliver them. And then ROCs. Hopefully we can lift the average beyond the 80%. People rated that down pretty low in the Fast 50 as 80% or greater completion of ROCs each quarter. As an independent executive, we'll take on a ROC each quarter in the engage stage to make sure that a lot of those tools are being rolled out, that we're getting some of those company-wide initiatives on track and under control. We'll review your tools every quarter through the engage to make sure that they're being maintained, curated, and protected. Sometimes they can be a bit of you can be excitement around them, and we'll launch out of the gates and then they fall off. So we're hoping to, through this engagement, to help you keep them on track, and then to provide a regular check-in on those. And then ultimately coaching the team. So engage, we'll have a same page rhythm, visionary integrator, and then support the leadership team. And as we move through the different stages, there's different levels of coaching to ultimately, if you decide to, if you don't have an integrator, you decide to bring one in, we can help coach them. If you have an integrator and you want us to support them, we can coach them as well. And then that sort of varies at the 3 different stages. So hopefully that's clear. If you have any questions, then please yell out. We've tried to distill it down to make it as simple as possible. Obviously, there's more detail behind them. The process looks like this. So engage, elevate, and empower. Minimum 3-month term, and then after that, it's month to month. We want to build that independence. We don't want you to feel like you're stuck with us, that we're a ball and chain that you need to drag around. We want to lift the tide and for you to be stronger and to be independently stronger, where it's a choice to work with us or not. If we nail that engage, which hopefully we do, then we can put you in a position to decide, do you need that higher touch ongoing after the 3 months? Or are you ready to move to a lower touch in Elevate? Perhaps someone in the business is stepping up as the integrator. We don't want to get in their way. We want to make them a great integrator. And that's another way we're filling that talent gap, not just by putting ourselves in there, by helping your integrators to be independently strong as well. And then all going well, well-oiled machine, pumping along. If we want to move to empower, which is more of a coaching engagement, we can do that. And if the business needs change, we can move between these as well. But the engage commitment is where it starts. That allows us to get the lay of the land, make a few assumptions as possible, and help you to get control of your business and to make sure that that integrator function is there, present, and then building its strength over time. Hopefully that makes sense. You got me? If you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I'm assuming your questions. Anyway, I'll keep doing that in the absence of questions. So we also want to be really clear. So I've taken you through like what we will do. So that table lays out the scope effectively of what we will do and gives you some detail on that. But I also want to be really clear on what we don't do. And I think that's really important in any type of engagement. And I'm looking around the screen and seeing a few IT business owners. If you led with what you don't do, sometimes that might help because some of the obscure requests that you get from people, anything that plugs into the wall needs support. So we want to be clear on what we don't do. So we're not your EOS implementer. So Murray and myself are EOS implementers, but in independent executives, we're not acting as your EOS implementer. In fact, we want to support that relationship between you and your EOS implementer. We want to help you get the best out of that engagement. And we're not a substitute for running your business. So we are relying on you to be subject matter experts in your field. We're not a substitute for that. We will bring that expertise in keeping everyone rowing in the same direction or keeping the trains running on time, as Sammy says. And we want to make sure that you're maintaining control of that operating system that is that foundational level in your business, but you are the subject matter experts. We're relying on you to make that call. We won't add to your capacity constraints. We want to actually save you time. So the things that I talk through in the engagement as well as the engage stage is not designed to give you more things to do. It's designed to give you time back. And that predictable structure will hopefully do that. And we're not a talent placement service. We're not trying to put general managers or operations managers or COOs or those sorts of people into your business. We're bringing an integrator function to your business. So if you need to have a talent placement need, we can help with that in terms of giving you clarity of what the needs of the business are through delivering that function really well. And we've had a couple of companies that we're engaged with right now say to us up front, we actually would like to have an integrator in-house, or have one in particular has someone integrator leaving and wants us to come in and fill that. And they're up front and have said, we intend to replace that function, and we're okay with that. That's great. You'll have the integrator talent gap filled, and we can bring them up to speed on all of the specific needs of an integrator. And so that changes the way you recruit. You no longer have to worry about your ability to level them up as an integrator. You can focus on the specific needs of your business. In fact, in that example, they've identified there might be someone in their business who could do the integrator function if they had our support. So that was really cool to discover that through that process as well. So there are some goals that we have, success factors, I guess. We really want your leadership team to be able to own their domain. We want them to have more time to do what they love. We have an EOS tool that we leverage as EOS implementers, Delegate and Elevate. If you're familiar with it, the top left quadrant is things that we love and that we're great at. If we had your leadership team focused on those things rather than trying to augment some of these integrator functions, that would be great. Because if we're doing things that we love, we're going to produce a better result. We're going to achieve better buy-in and ultimately a better customer result. and general happiness through the business. We want the foundational tools to be maintained to a high standard. Sometimes people or leaders don't leverage a lot of the EOS tools fully because they don't trust themselves to keep it alive. If I launch quarterly conversations, then I'm actually going to have to do them every quarter. If I launch quarterly conversations, then people are going to expect me to show up every quarter. So quite often they don't happen as a result of that. Or if I'm going to roll out level 10 meetings to departments, then I'm going to have to be really confident in myself in that I can achieve a 10 out of 10 meeting. So let's maybe delay that. Let's put it on our long-term issues. So if we can improve how those foundational tools are done and give you that confidence, that would be amazing. And to do it to a high standard consistently, even better. We want integrators to be able to truly own the operating system, not having to, rob Peter to pay Paul. We don't want them to feel like they're having to put things on pause. We want them to be able to own that and to be that glue, because a critical function of the integrator is that buffer between the visionary and the rest of the business. And it's not to stifle them. It's just to make sure the 20 ideas before breakfast don't all land on our VTO. We need to pick out the ones that actually align with our purpose, align with our goals and where we're headed. And to truly own that operating system, they need to be able to focus and to have those tools in place. And hopefully your integrator, if you have an integrator in that seat, hopefully they don't leave. But if they did, we wouldn't want you to feel panicked or to feel like you don't have options. So we want to be able to fill that gap for you and to give you confidence that you can keep moving. Even if it's a temporary placement while you find someone else, we can help you maintain traction. Or sometimes it could just be that they've stepped out. We just need to buy ourselves some time while we work out what we do differently. Maybe there's an integrator hiding there somewhere in the business and we can give you a different lens to look through. And we want that role to be more viable and attractive. That example I gave earlier is a real example of a company that, talking to us, thought, you know what? There's actually someone in our business who could be the integrator, but they just don't have the confidence in running the operating system. They don't have the confidence in themselves to own the tools and to do that bit in the middle to hold down that seat. If we can support you in doing that, then hopefully that role becomes more viable and attractive, and potentially even from a cost perspective. I did a quick review, a bit of a canvas of the companies that I work with as an EOS implementer. About 5 or 6 of them, I just asked them in recent sessions in the room here, approximately what would they be spending on their integrator. And it was varied from 90-odd thousand to 270,000 a year. And so they were pretty eye-watering variance in numbers. Either way, it's probably somewhere in that range. If we can help make that more viable, then that would be great as well. And ultimately, perhaps selfishly, I'm an EOS implementer, and so is Murray. One of the things that can really strain the implementation process, and sometimes even the relationship between the implementer and the organization, is when the integrator function isn't strong. When you're rolling into a quarterly and you'll say, Dan or Murray, we didn't get our people analyzer done this quarter, or we'll do our check-in call and you're sheepish about taking the call. It's because our ROC completion was pretty bad this quarter. So these are all common things. And if you have a strong grip on the integrator function, you can change that and you can get more out of your EOS implementation. A lot of things will come off your long-term issues list and be tackled in those sessions. So that's what success looks like for us. And hopefully there's something in there that resonates with you. There are some clear next steps. In addition to asking me questions while I'm here, I've kind of motored through the content and we had planned for question time, but if I need to go back over anything, please let me know. I've got my clicker, I can go back. If you haven't done the Fast 50, I'd love you to do it. I'm not sure, Sammy, if the back end tells us how long it takes for people to do it, but it doesn't take long. So if you put aside a few minutes for it, the Fast 50 is going to encourage you to think and assess where you're at across just 10 areas. If you could do that, if you have done that, then fantastic. I'm super appreciative of that. If you want to have a more personal one-to-one conversation about this, sometimes it can be a little sensitive. Then please, you can book in a discovery call, which we've got a link to be able to do that. And then we'd want to put you in a position where you can decide, is this something for us? Is this a right now, or is this something that we need? A couple of companies that we're working with have been very deliberate about launching this in the new year, which is fine. That's fair enough. We want to put you in a position where you've got all the information to be able to decide. We have blocked out some blocks of time where trying to give people an opportunity before the end of the year. I know there's, it's the 30th of November right now, and a lot of teams that I've been meeting with recently, it feels like it's a lot later in the year than that. Fatigue levels. We've locked out a couple of days where we can do some, dedicate some time for people to have a discovery call that have attended this or watched this recording. So we've got on the December 13th and 14th, some flexibility there. We'll provide you the link and you can book in that session. They are running for 50 to 60 minutes. It's more personal. It's an opportunity to talk about some of your Fast 50 feedback, to have a look at your VTO, your accountability chart. And if you want to do that, I'd love that opportunity. If you ever want to email us and ask any questions, you can email us directly. You can change the prefix if you want to get any of us directly. Mine's DW, Sammy's SJ, and Murray's MS, or you can just hit info and you'll get us and we'll come back to you. And you can check out our website if you want to continue the conversation with your team or a business partner or your current integrator, and you want to give them something to look at. You can check out independentexecs.com. And by all means, invite key team members along to the discovery as well. It doesn't need to be a one-to-one. But thank you for your time. I'd love to answer any questions that anyone has. I can see that there have been some knowing looks and knowing nods along the way. But if there's any questions, then please feel free to fire them, or I can share some responses to some recent questions. Does anyone have anything they'd like to know more about, or anything that's not immediately obvious?
So I've got a question, Dan. So just to clarify, what you're saying is that what you're sort of proposing here is that if you're in a visionary seat, you don't have an integrator, you will sort of help find someone or potentially allocate someone to come into your business for a certain amount of time per week to execute on some of those rocks to sort of part-time, almost like you see a lot of part-time CFOs in business. So this is kind of like a part-time integrator role. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. In a lot of ways, that's what we're doing. We're building a bench. We're currently at 4 people and rapidly adding people to our bench of integrators. Bench, for a lack of a better word. I apologize if that's a bit crude, but we're building up curated talent, the integrator and EOS experience. And so they will be, if I can quickly flick back to that table, you're right, they'll drop in to your business to, majority of it will be remote delivery. Where possible, we would like to spend some time in the business. But keeping these key activities moving, like the pillar of the week is the level 10 meeting, making sure they are quality, attending the quarterly meetings, the company updates, same page meetings with the visionary, and just keeping, you're right, dropping in as that function, kind of like a VCFO or VCIO or whatever the contemporary is for those. But subject matter experts in the integrator function.
Sure. And do you have a view on how much time they would spend with each potential client?
So it's going to vary a little bit, and it's probably one of the things that we talk through fairly closely in the discovery sessions about the needs of your business. We have in mind an allocation of business that's going to mean of time in the business It's going to mean that the level 10 meetings will be high quality, the same page meetings are high quality, they're working on rocks, making sure that the processes, the tools are being implemented well within the business. And so that will vary, but we've kind of got almost like an acceptable use policy on that, which will walk a mile, see a mile in your specific business. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I appreciate the questions. I was beginning to wonder if I'd nailed everything or I'd missed by miles. Is there any other questions that come to mind?
No, it just occurred to me. I mean, as you know, we lost our integrator about 12 months ago, but I think we've sort of shared that role with a couple of team members, and it's been going along. It's maybe not purely smooth, but I think our results have been positive enough so far that we're going okay. But it's good to know that this support is there as well to help us if we start to lose our way. Yeah, spot on. And you guys have done a great job to fill that gap yourselves, and I think you've got a unique blend in the leadership team where you've of experience, and you've done that really well. And I had a conversation with a company that was sizing us up as a solution recently, and in the discovery call, he's the CEO in this business, said to me, "I'd do this anyway. Like we're looking at putting an integrator in, but I'd do this anyway. If we could have 3 months of someone come in and whip us into shape, I'd do it anyway." And I thought, you know what, that was probably an unintended outcome. But if that makes sense for your business, then to do that, then that's great. And to be able to move between those stages once you've done the engage gives you that control, because every business will have different levels of comfort and control and different competency or capacity across the leadership team. And I think that in your specific example, Dean, it's the different capacities across the leadership team and yourself, being the founder of the business, being able to plug that really well. Are there any other questions or comments? I did have recently a couple of people have asked me about the delivery, the FaceTime, I guess. We absolutely best effort to be in person for the quarterly planning and annual planning, if that's where it lands in your journey. The rest of it will be predominantly remote delivery, unless it makes sense to be there in person for something. And there are several reasons why we're doing that. COVID has taught us to be flexible around that, but also we don't want to limit access to the right talent and the right matching. If there wasn't someone who was in a really convenient location that was a really good match for you, we wouldn't want to limit your options, because we do have a matching process that allows us to make sure we get the right people fit, right person, right seat fit. And we're confident in our ability to do that remotely as well. Just thought I'd put that out there. It seems to be a common question. All right. Excellent. Any questions, any thoughts, anything to share? Sammy or Murray, if I missed it. Oh, sorry, Mark.
Sorry, Dan. Just, I suppose, is there a fee structure, or is that for discussion outside of here?
Yeah, well, there is a fee structure. Engage is a minimum of 3 months, and I can go into that more in detail one-to-one, but it's cost effective.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's in the ballpark of $15,000 for a 3-month initial engagement, thereabouts. It's slightly higher, but I'm visionary. I'll just round it down. It's in thereabouts, and that puts us all in a position to know what the ongoing engagement is. And obviously, lower touch engagement from there on is a lower monthly fee. And we try to keep it as cost effective as possible. We don't want the cost to be a barrier to people doing this type of thing in their business. Because some of the people, when I look across the people on our bench, I'm using that word again, to employ them in your business would be a significant cost. So we want to give you access to those special individuals.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for asking. Thank you for being the one. And I'm sure others are thinking it. Excellent. All right.
Murray's our implementer, so he knows us pretty well.
Oh, excellent. You're in good hands.
We are.
Yeah. Just flick to the last slide again. Look, if you want to, I've kind of overshared there, but you asked the question mark, and I wasn't gonna leave you hanging. If you want to have a discovery with, maybe if you've got an integrator, bring them along. I don't want integrators to feel threatened by us. We're not here to displace them. We're here to make them stronger, to give them more time and more focus. And in doing that, will help the visionaries, owners of the business, and the rest of the leadership team. So I'd love for you to bring your integrator along if you feel that's appropriate to a discovery. And then through that, you'll be in hopefully be pretty clear on what we do here, but we want to get you in a position where you can decide if this is a now, a not now, or we're okay, we don't need this as a result of that discovery. So we have all of our welcome packs and our onboarding process ready to go. So we're good to go when you are. But yeah, I'm happy to continue. We are happy to continue that conversation.
Good.
Awesome. So if there's no other questions or comments, I can give you some of your day back.